Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy, my channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of commodities. Again, we'll look at the dollar, the 10-year, 30-year yields, and work our way through precious metals and all the commodities that I follow. I did release some information on the website. What I did is I did some fractal comparisons where I take old charts and compare the patterns that the chart makes to patterns that are today. I did this with the dollar. I did this with Netflix going through its, I'll say its prime owning years for technology when technology stocks were favorable, and compared it to the current bull market that's happening in some of the commodity stocks. And the way that moves is very similar to the way that Netflix moved during the 2012 to 2021 timeframe. It's the same type of movement in fractal that we have. So I have some price projections on on one of the stocks that I follow. We're seeing that same fractal throughout the entire commodity sector. Energy service companies, it could be anything that's commodity related. We're seeing those types of patterns. So definitely sign up the Platinum membership if you want to see all that. But that's something that I added if you're already a Platinum member. So here we go. We'll dive into this. I'll give you my financial opinion. We'll start with the dollar. The dollar, quite a bit lower today. It was down 1%. Like I said before, we've got the large selling pressure, a smaller bounce, and we're getting some selling pressure all through here. Is this a topping mechanism, or is this a top in the relative strength of the dollar in relationship to previous bull markets? Let me go back and just show you guys what the previous bull markets look like real quick. So you have some kind of relationship here. This was the last bull market here. This is the bottom of the ratio. And we went higher in the first half of that commodity bull market where commodities outperformed the S&P 500. Think of this as a rising or raising interest rate environment. Usually it's from a very low interest rate and then you raise it on up. And during this cycle, it wasn't as big and pronounced, but it goes on up, and usually the dollar goes up with it, the relative strength of the dollar. Then we turned in 2002 and headed lower. What I'm seeing now, so this is the bottom of the ratio, the top of the dollar, DXY at least, and then the top of the ratio where commodities ceased to go up. That was kind of like the all everything crash. Now, what we're seeing now is the bottom of the ratio happened in 2020, March 2020. We weakened a little bit in the dollar, and then we strengthened. Much like the previous bull market back here, it strengthened in that first half of the bull market. Then it rolled over and was a huge tailwind for a lot of different investments. A lot of commodity companies and stocks didn't really take off till 2002, 2003, 2004 in that time frame. And I think what's happening, if we were to look, is that are we getting this rollover right now? And I would say it's a possibility. I can't say for sure that it is necessarily a top, but it sure looks like it, and it sure is getting that strong closing and finishing momentum. I should say that strong momentum closing into the day, the end of the day, with that strong close. So it looks to me like the dollar is getting a little bit top heavy here, and we could fall back down. If I were to draw a resistance support line kind of through here, we can get one that comes through this guy here. And that is basically where we're at, and you can kind of leverage this depending on which peak you hit and which trough, but it's somewhere in this general vicinity that we're at, where we could hit it and come back lower. So it does line up with a resistance line. So the dollar is lower. That is a tailwind behind dollar investments, investments that are dollar denominated. So think of commodities, they're all priced in dollars. Weaker dollar, they get a little bit of a boost. The 10-year yield also heading lower today. Now, I'm not claiming that this is the necessary top, but it is lower. We got a little wick at the bottom. There was some selling pressure. For yields, it's selling pressure to come back up. And then we also saw TLT, which are bond prices. prices go up, yields go down. They're inversely correlated. So we've got TYX also heading a little bit lower, down 2.29%. Momentum is definitely still to the upside for both the 10-year and the 30-year. And what that means is the 10 and 30-year yields, as they go up, they price assets differently. Stocks generally go down when interest rates go up, and they conversely go up when interest rates go down. They use that for net present value calculations. When interest rates are higher, your net present value goes down, so they're less likely to speculate on stocks with higher yielding bonds. We've got the commodity index here. We're getting some buying pressure. That looks good. Everything still looks all right with the commodity, the index. We came on down, put in a kind of a bear flag. We came back down even a little bit more. To me, it looks like we're trying to put a bottom in here. I think that's definitely the case if we get a weaker dollar, and the yields, it's not as yield sensitive, but definitely weaker dollar is going to be a tailwind behind everything. Gold, I think it's setting up here quite nicely. We've got nice big buying pressure these days through here, smaller selling pressure. We got another nice big candlestick to the upside, which is what I call the green army. The green army, you usually see this when things, before it becomes bullish. I think it looks really good. So I'm definitely looking at potential investments in this area. Silver, same thing. We're above support. We're getting the green army to come in with the large green candlesticks, and the red candlesticks are smaller. Less selling pressure, more buying pressure. A measurement of pressure or force is distance moved over time. And you can see your distance moved over time on this is rapid. Think of it as short covering or people trying to cover things. And then the slow leak off again. Kind of the grind lower, and then another impulse move higher. So silver looks good, gold looks good. Platinum's also looking very, very good at this time. I know it was down today, but I still think it looks excellent. We've got XAU to gold ratio. That is also moving in a favorable direction for gold and silver miners. So that's also looking good. Looking at SILJ. SILJ is our silver junior miner companies. It's up 1%. Nice big kind of drive off that, came back to the support level, and I think that this looks like it's ready to go on higher. It looks good. Same with GDX. GDX going up 2% today. Again, I think this looks fantastic. We've got support in this area. That is usually where I look to purchases where we have support underneath us, and things are starting to turn around from a candlestick perspective. So I think GDX looks good. Crude oil coming up a little bit today, 0.34%. We are still in this sideways action. What I consider that is we get a big good drive off the bottom. Bigger buying pressure, smaller selling pressure. We kind of just rotate down a little bit. That's your return move. Now we're in the dead period where the buyers equal the sellers. And usually when I see next is a move higher. So I'm expecting over the next month or so that we start to move on higher in crude oil futures. Natural gas, like I said, we had these lines. I haven't redrawn anything here. This is the bottom portion of this accumulation cylinder. We were speculating if we could come back to the bottom of the accumulation cylinder. Well, we did. Luckily, we tapped the bottom of that cylinder, used it as support, and we're basically jumping higher today. Nice strong finish as well, up 9%. I think natural gas looks really good down here. We're seeing that buying pressure. If you're part of the membership, I talk about this a lot. About support levels, bouncing off support levels, finding and seeing that buying pressure. And then looking at XOP, it's grinding above this resistance line. We could move quite dramatically to the upside if we can release from this resistance area. I wouldn't say that we're in the free and clear yet, but it looks promising and it looks good. And what I mean by we're not out in the free and clear, we still have resistance where we're at, and it very easily could pull back. But if we can get our legs underneath us, start driving forward through this resistance, that resistance is going to be less impactful, and we can really start to move. Natural gas is also helping us too. OIH is still looking really good. We've broken out of this long-term trend line. And keep in mind though, usually what you do is you break out and then you might have one last return move before heading higher. So, keep that in your thoughts, keep that, break the trend, you create a higher low, then a higher high, and then you're in a new uptrend. And right now we're breaking the downtrend, and that's occurring right in front of us. Uranium, sideways mainly in the futures pricing, but that still looks excellent from a monthly candlestick perspective, and even a weekly, it looks really strong. This thing could go at any time. It could blow at any time to the upside, and I think everything looks excellent from a uranium futures perspective. Large buying pressure, small selling pressure. That's exactly what I look for in the movements. And then Sprott Physical Uranium Trust. This guy is it's slowing down a little bit, but we know that there's that resistance line right above our head. And that is what we're trying to break through, is that resistance line. If it decides to show up, there we go. So we came up here, we got real close to that resistance line, we backed off a little bit. Now we want to see how far back we go. This may not pull back very far. If that's the case, then we've got a lot of strength, and we'll see if we can break out of here. I expect when we do break out of this resistance line that we're going to see a massive, powerful day break on through it with good volume. So when I look at this, if I just draw a line here, what I see is kind of this maybe kind of inverted head and shoulders type pattern where we could be breaking to the upside, hopefully anytime soon. Uranium has supporting case where we've got a nice good bullish engulfing that formed today. So we broke the downtrend. We had a bullish engulfing here, another bullish engulfing here, and we have another one today. That's evidence of reversal candlesticks for a move on up. So I think URNM is painting a very bullish picture here. If we back out, you can see the candlestick right there on a monthly candlestick basis. Let me get off logarithmic real quick. And then on a weekly candlestick basis, we're starting to break this downtrend line, and it's looking a little bit better. So is this going to be the beginning of a very big move? That's what everyone's asking. I don't know for 100% fact on that, but I can tell you it looks good. CCJ also heading a little bit higher. Let's look at the dailies here. Nice, good, strong finish into that closing as well. So I think CCJ looks really good. That's our leader. So I think uranium, looking at the futures pricing, looking at URNM, looking at TCJ, it looks good. I've also seen a lot of bullish engulfings with a lot of the companies that I follow. A lot of strong up movements. So it looks really good for the entire sector, I think. TAN is also starting to work its way on higher, looking strong, finishing strong. That was a reversal candlestick we had yesterday, that hammer pattern, and we're bouncing on higher. And I think it will follow what the overall markets will do. If we have weaker yields, weaker dollar, those are tailwinds behind a lot of this stuff. These guys are heavily dependent on loaning. So interest rates make a big deal with companies that aren't huge cash flow positive. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Copper's also looking pretty good. Bullish engulfing here. We got a nice big candlestick here. We're getting a little bit more buying pressure today, up 2.5%. And we've broken this downtrend here. So this to me looks like it's trying to put together a move higher very soon. So that's looking good. CRB to S&P 500. Hopefully this is updated. It's down 2%. Again, this could pull back a little bit in the ratio in the short term. With yields coming back down a little bit, we might see the S&P 500 move up a good kind of strong surge in the beginning. Then we'll have to see what goes on after that. REMX, it's looking good. We've got good support. We came back to this support level and we're starting to move higher. So rare earth metals, this is our big long support level. What you see is kind of these W-shaped bottoms. They break out, they retest, and then they run. And I think we're getting close. It's looking very good for a potential move higher in rare earth metals. Looking at lithium, Lithium also getting a bullish piercing here, a bullish engulfing here. That usually means that we want to go higher. It doesn't mean we have to. It just means that the statistical probabilities of a move to the upside are there. So I think lithium's looking good in the short term, and this heavily tracks what the overall market's doing. We'll look what the overall markets are doing here. So the S&P 500, there's your bullish engulfing reversal candlestick there, and we got another one there, and that usually signals a move higher, and we're moving on higher. So there's your bullish engulfings where they engulf the ones before it. And those are usually statistical probabilities for moves on up. So it looks really good. We're moving on up. It's finishing strong. I think the momentum will continue, especially if you see yields going down. Weaker dollar, weaker yields. We're also seeing the U.S. Composite Index do the same thing as the S&P 500. It's a move higher. So I think we're bouncing higher. It looks good. EEM with that weaker dollar, we're seeing EEM pull on up today. So that's positive for EEM. XHB is also moving on higher with those weaker yields. Comes higher home prices. Now, I know a lot of people say that the home market's going to crash. I think that is heavily dependent on yields and where mortgage rates are at and all that stuff. But the same people that are stating that they are bearish on housing are also kind of slinging these bonds with high interest rates. You can't be at least in my opinion, it's hard to be a bull on bonds, which basically you're saying that interest rates have peaked and are going to go lower, and be a bear on housing because interest rates going down would be a huge tailwind for housing. So I kind of see those as the same thing. If you're a bond bull, you should be a home building, not a home builder, but a home price bull as well. Seems like it. Lumber heading a little bit lower. Again, the breakout, and then we get a retest move. That's kind of where my head's at with it. Cocoa futures down today, down 1.75. Again, we're still above all these support levels, and I still think it looks good. There's your big bullish engulfing candlestick that I see there. Wheat. Wheat's down 0.5%. I do think we could maybe perhaps tag this uptrend line. Let me redraw this here real quick and extend it. That guy there. And I think it's possible that we could come back and retouch that trend line. Soybeans heading higher today. Again, it's kind of indifferent. It's just been grinding sideways. And then corn, another one that's been grinding sideways, getting a little bit of buying pressure today. It doesn't look too bad. Let me back out a little bit. It needs more buying pressure here. I think we're going to consolidate for a little while on a longer term basis. Looking at copper, copper's just been moving sideways. I don't see a clear direction yet, but usually it's a downtrend line break, move sideways, then hopefully we can move on up. Scrolling down to Mu. Mu is looking really good. I think this looks fantastic. Bullish engulfing there, and we have another one today. That's usually indication to move higher. So that's the Mu VanEck Agribusiness ETF. And longer term, it still doesn't look as great, but usually what you want to do is you start on the short term, you start looking good in the short term, you start looking good on the weeklies, then you start looking good on the monthlies for a turnaround. Scrolling down to aluminum. Aluminum is bouncing today, looking really strong. Let me go to the weeklies here. Bullish engulfing on the weeklies. I think this is going to go higher. I think a lot of the companies look good, and I'll talk about it tomorrow during our Wednesday midweek update on some ideas around playing aluminum here. Looks really good. Looking at we also have the iron ore. Iron ore is contracting down into a corner here. Oops, sorry. Falling wedge. I know it doesn't look pretty how I drew that, but it's a falling wedge. It's coming back to support, and I think that we're going to get a bounce here to the upside. That will be a tailwind for shipping, because shipping is mainly dominated by coal and iron ore and shipping these things around. So I think that looks good from that perspective, and the diversified miners are also very heavily in iron ore. So that looks good. It looks like it's trying to turn around here. Baltic Dry Index down a little bit today. It's not really much to talk about. We're right on the support level. and a lot of the companies are starting to bounce. So that is that concludes kind of what I follow in the markets there. So, looking at everything kind of to wrap it up, I think I think anything energy related looks really good. Energy service companies look good. Energy like oil, natural gas, they're looking like they want to move higher. Uranium looks great. That wants to move higher. Shipping looks good because of iron ore. That looks good to go higher. Aluminum looks good to go higher. Basically, everything looks good to go higher. A lot of the fertilizer companies look good. You could probably throw darts at a wall and hit something that looks good at this time. So everything looks really good. Again, it's heavily dependent on the dollar, the DXY, heavily dependent on yields. If we see yields continue lower, if we see the DXY come lower, I think precious metals, I think they'll start to respond to this as well. And everything's looking a lot better. So give me a thumb up for the content, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and subscribe to the Platinum membership on finding-value.com if you feel like it. I do give midweek updates. That's midweek tomorrow, every Wednesday. And I'll talk about the companies and how I'm playing a lot of these in terms of the charts and the sectors, what companies I think have high leverage. High leverage can work both ways, though. Leverage on up and leverage on down, depending on what the charts look like. So that's what I've got. Hopefully you guys are having a good day. We'll catch you next time. This is Finding Value.